Okay, so today I'm going to be showing you guys how to paint these lovely Christmas lights. I always break everything down step by step, right? So it's meant, I'll be using acrylic paints. This is my little palette cam, so you'll see exactly what colors I'm using and you can follow along. And I'll be starting off with something really basic and we're going to slowly build it up. I always have a break halfway through the class at around 8. I guess it'll be probably 8:30, seeing as I'm having a little bit of a late start today. But yeah, let's get going. So the references I'm going to keep so I can see them. I'm going to pop in the reference for step 1 so that you guys can see what it should look like as you're going. I will let you know that the colors we are using today are magenta, ultramarine blue. Where did my reference go? There it is. Magenta, ultramarine blue, a yellow, and white, as always. Don't forget to record the mic. Thank you, Lisa. And you know what? It's easier with Twitch because I'm just using OBS, and OBS kind of automatically has all of that already, but I am recording, so we're good. Thank you for that reminder. But yeah, this should actually work with digital as well, so if you have Photoshop or Procreate, feel free to open up a new canvas that's about, I'm using a 16 by 20 inch canvas. It's primed with some acrylic gesso. It's not perfect white, but that's okay. I always end up covering the whole canvas anyway. So yeah, if you have like a new canvas digitally, then it should just be in landscape mode and not portrait. I mean, technically this could work in both. Can I turn off the tree? Yes, I can. I was actually wondering if that bothered anyone at my last class, because it's quite distracting for me. But I totally don't mind turning it off. Thank you for asking. Epileptic lights. Oh man, so my daughter got like the really flashy one is this disco light that responds to sound. So when we play music, it like shoots out colors depending on the music. All right. So if you're following along with acrylics, we're going to start with setting our palette. So typically when I set my palette, I put all of my colors in the different corners so that they don't play around too much with each other. We don't want them to be too in each other's faces. So the first color, actually I already have some white on the canvas, so we're not gonna get white yet. Sorry, take that back. We're gonna start with yellow. Grab your yellow. And which spoon should I use? Menchie spoons because they're great. They just give them to you. Although I haven't been to a Menchie's in maybe a year. These are just regular old student acrylic paints. These ones are from Wallix. I have a teacher's discount there, so I like to support them. They're local. Their paints are really nice. We use them for Art Battle, which I haven't been to in forever. If you don't know about Art Battle, check it out at artbattle.com. It's basically live competitive painting. Hi. Everything's good. Thanks for joining. It's a lot more fun when there are people around. Like I said, I will have these classes available, recorded on Patreon. That link is down there. In the meantime, it's a lot more fun to paint when other people are around, and I know that not everyone can always make class time, so I figured I'd try doing it on Twitch. We'll see how it goes. Alright, so magenta, yellow, and ultramarine to start. If you're working digitally, you can also set swatches for those colors. Depending on the software you're using, you can always like do a little blob of each color as you go, and then you can have them to refer to later. Got our palette all set up. Hi. Right. We're going to start. So whenever I start with the bigger canvas, I like to use, the canvas is actually gray. It's not like, it's not the camera being weird. The gesso I use to cover old paintings because I rarely ever paint on brand new canvases. I'm using a recycled gesso that I got from Wellix. I don't know where it is right now, but it's good at just covering old paintings. Whenever I don't like a painting or if I'm just using it as a study, I just cover it up when I don't use it anymore. Alright, I'm just gonna dive right in. I'm gonna grab my yellow. Oh, sorry, the brush that I'm using first. You can probably see it best here. This is just a big flat one. So I typically start with a larger brush so you can cover more area. This is a filbert. A filbert brush typically is just a brush that is large and flat with rounded edges instead of square edges. So I have a few of them just to give you an idea. This is what they typically look like. They are, you can see behind, they're rounded, they are flat. So you can use them either in the flat way or on the edge like a calligraphy brush. So the first one I'm using, it's, I don't know, about an inch wide. Grabbing yellow. We're gonna start by setting up where our first light blobs are gonna be. Also, hi chat. I am still reading, but I'm also teaching and recording, so I just wanted to give you a heads up that I might not always answer right away, unless it's like a super burning painting question. But thank you all for joining. All right, so the first blob we're gonna do, as you can see in the reference, we have one, our yellows, we have one in the top. We have two at the top, and then one near the bottom, and one on the right. And the one on the top, I'm gonna start by doing like a bit more than a semicircle. I'm just gonna fill it in like that. It's kind of, let's see, as far as like if you're using an 11 by 14 or a 16 by 20, I'd say it's at least 3 inches high. Like that. Might need to eyeball it, but again, this is not super restrictive. You can actually do any colors anywhere and this effect will work. The way that we're designing these Christmas lights is that first we are working on the glow area of the color and then we work our way down towards getting brighter and brighter towards the actual light bulb. So after you grab your yellow for that, just to keep in mind when you're putting paint on your brush, you want to make sure you're keeping the shape of the brush. So in this case, this is a flat, because it's a filbert, I'm not gonna jam it all into my paint there. I always pull some a bit to the side and I lay it out flat just so that it holds the shape of the brush so that I'm not getting like crazy unpredictable shapes. Yellow is kind of a transparent color, so I always put on a little bit extra. But again, you want the paint to be a fairly smooth consistency for this painting because we're going to be adding more layers on top of it, so you don't want it to be too thick. All right, so that's one. Do the next one in the top corner here. I'm just looking at my reference. I have it at about, it's smaller than the first one we did. I try to stay as closely to the reference as possible, but that does not mean that you have to. Really, as long as you have these colors, you can even change the colors of your lights. I'm going with yellow, magenta, like these. This is just one of my favorite color palettes. I have these lights on my tree, also in my basement. Paint the edges as you go if you want. I like to do that just to make it look more finished. And it's more of a pain to paint the edges later on. But yeah, I have a set of lights like this in these colors, and I don't find they're too blatantly Christmassy. I find like even after Christmas I kind of like having them up. Alright, so we got two blobs. For the next one, I'm gonna do it around in the bottom right corner, but not touching the bottom corner. So you do a light circle at first. You can start smaller and then work your way out if you want it bigger. Try to use your whole arm to make these shapes. It definitely helps in making it more fluid. Or if you're really nervous about, I'll demo on the other one. If you're well, I can demo here. If you're nervous about making like a circle with your paint, start with a dot And then you can kind of twirl your brush and then kind of make it slightly bigger with every trace around the edge, and that will kind of make sure that it stays a circle instead of getting way too big right at the start. I probably should have started with that, but it's okay. Right, so we have another blob here. It's about the same size. It's a little smaller than our top left one. Our top left one I made as if it might have been closer to the viewer and cut off, so like further up towards the viewer. Again, I'm putting up a few extra layers just to give it a bit of body, because this gesso is really thin. If you're using a primed canvas, and you probably don't have this problem, but I recycle my canvases all the time, so I like to, the first layer sometimes needs a bit extra, especially with yellow, since it's really like transparent. All right, let's do our last blob now. The last blob I have being cut off a little bit by the bottom. Yeah, so this way, I'll start with a little dot like we did before. It's going to be around the middle of it. And I'll slowly make it bigger and bigger. Kind of using the shape of the brush. I push. The harder I push, the larger the trail is. Just kind of trace around the edge there. Like such. And keep getting bigger until part of it is, this one I'd say it's almost about as big as the top one there. So feel free to make it pretty giant. Like that. When just trying to decide what to paint, like for a holiday picture, it's always tricky because you don't want to. I get really sick of the traditional stuff. I've been asked to teach a lot of snowmen and, you know, snowy scenes and, I don't know, gingerbread houses, stuff like that, Christmas wreaths. And I find those kind of paintings, like, we see so much of a certain kind of decor around the holidays, so I like to do something a little bit different. I love lights. Actually, my favorite part about Christmas, or just the holiday season in general, are all the lights. So I wanted to get something like that going. There we go. Now we have our yellows. I don't believe I'm actually taking up as much space with these as I did in my reference, but that's okay. So go ahead and wash your brush. We're going to grab our next color. We're going to do magenta next. So I have a whole bunch of classes already recorded. I think this is number 7. And plus I have one that's designed just for kids that I made of like a little sailboat. It's a bit more basic, like super, super easy to do, less blending. But yeah, I have them all on my Patreon, so definitely trying to get people to know about that. That way you can get your supplies and get all your stuff ready and paint it whenever you're all set. Alright, so grabbing the magenta. Again, the same way, one side, I put the paint on both sides and I smooth it out, like so. Alright, we're going to do a big old blob, kind of to the above, to the left of the yellow one, kind of between the two. Almost centered, but I did it slightly lower, so I'll say the middle of it is around there. Like that. Just kind of keep increasing that circle. And we're going to get it just to brush up against the bottom yellow one. So yeah, feel free, like if you don't have my exact colors, that's totally fine. If you want to do, this painting might even work if you do lights that are all the same color. If you just really like white lights, well maybe not white, might not show so much on the canvas, but all blue or all yellows, golds, greens. It's really up to you. Especially if you're more comfortable with painting in general, then it's really, sky's the limit, really. really super unsteady and really, really uncomfortable with painting circles, a fun trick is to trace something. You can always grab, like this is about the size of a teacup plate, I don't know, a small dessert plate or something. I've done it several times in the past where I grabbed the lid of a pot or something, or even the lid of one of my paints. Let me grab one here. So if you have a lid and you're really not comfortable with making these circles, I can even use it for our next one. So our next magenta circle, the center will be just around in between these two, like there. And if you have something, you can even just pop it around, or that's about the middle, and trace it. Especially if you're working with kids, this can be a lot more fun and easy, and then they feel a lot more confident that they've been able to make a real shape. And then when you just take it off and you fill it in. Oh, I didn't really quite get it center, but whatevs, it works. Yeah. Made it a little bit, I think I want it bigger though, but now that we already have our shape, right? If you're tracing it, then it makes it a lot easier. And the acrylic does wash off fairly easily as long as you get it when it's still wet. Otherwise, I wouldn't recommend using something that you can't wash after, like, I don't know, don't use your fancy china. Not that I know many people who have fancy china anymore. I definitely don't. There we go. How many people do we actually have painting tonight? That's what I'm curious about. I'm pretty sure Amelia's painting. I'm gonna do a half circle underneath between these two. We'll say the center would have been here, right around there, and then we do like a little rainbow arc. And I'm picking up old pieces of paint. Like so. So again, the ones that are not full circles, they just help you create that composition of like a zoomed in look. Because if you put all of the circles where you could see the entire circle, it would look too much like it was zoomed out a bit, and I really went for this illusion of, oh, this one's huge. I really need to make it bigger. Looking at my reference, I'm like, oh, it really takes up like a big chunk. Octo! Thank you so much. I will reduce the levels. How's that? I really appreciate it because I won't be able to change the audio after, once I do the recording. How's that, you guys? All right, more like when I'm talking here. Can you still hear me okay? Testing, testing. I'm definitely used to the sound levels for when I'm streaming closer to the mic. Good, 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 much better, thank you. Wow, there's a lot of lag. It's okay. I'm pretty sure my whole family is chilling on electronics tonight. That's the main way I get them not to bother me while I'm teaching. Go play your games. I'm happy to see that some of you guys are painting along. Digitally is fun. I'm interested to see how it looks digitally. All right, I'm gonna do one more arc here. It's huge, but I look at my reference and it really is kind of big. It's okay. It's gonna be so glowy. So good. There we go. On my other reference, they were touching, but it's not a big deal. So we have 3. I'm gonna go back and make. Thanks for your help, you guys. I appreciate it. I'm gonna make this one a little bigger because as I'm looking at my reference, it looks like it actually touches this one here. I love painting. Like painting flat shapes is just like, it's so meditative. It's just fun to play around with the paint. There we go. And this one doesn't need to be bigger. A little bit. There we go. Alright, now that we're done our magenta ones, pretty much, they don't have to be like super accurate on the edges. Sorry if my chair is really loud. I would love to get one that rolls more quietly and doesn't make such a huge noise when I'm rolling it around. So yeah, wash your big flat brush. I guess I call it a flatzo because I'm so clever. Alright, next we're gonna do my ultramarine. We'll do green last because it's complicated. It requires us like mixing colors. Alright, so I got some ultramarine there on my brush. Really, it's just blue. If you don't have ultramarine, it's not the end of the world. It's just my favorite blue for painting with, so. Okay, we have one in the corner here, top left corner. We're gonna do like a quarter of like a pie. Quarter circle right here. Oh, it's dark. Yeah, using ultramarine I like because it's so intensely strong and it can be used to mix darker colors a lot more effectively than a cobalt or a cyan, like other types of blue paint. Or ultramarine or phthalo blue. I think phthalo only comes in, I haven't seen it too often in acrylics, but it exists. But yeah, they have that like that deep richness that lets you make things really dark. You miss paint, but if your dog had his way, he'd be covered. Would he just get really excited like while you're painting and want to eat it or something? I hope he doesn't want to eat it. All right, our blue one here is going to be big in the middle, so I'd say like the center would be around there. Sorry, I did the outside before the middle. Middle first, and then expand. Yeah, sometimes like I'll leave my paints alone for a long time. I'll do digital for a while or just drawing. But whenever I get back to painting, it's like, oh, now I remember why I like it so much. It's like you forget, because sometimes like it is a lot of work to set it up and to clean up and all that, but if you give yourself enough time for it, it's so soothing. This one, as far as size goes, it's smaller than its neighboring magenta ones because we still want to make some room for some green. There we go. I think I only have the two. Just looking at my reference. Yeah, just the two. Next, wash out your brush and we're going to make some green. You'd want to sniff all of it. Oh no. Yeah, Milo has been very curious about paint on several occasions. I think she's not bothering me right now, mostly because I read for hours today. I was sitting on the little couch there and on that quilted blanket, like that quilt you can see right there. And I sat with her for like 2 hours reading a book. So I think like her mommy cuddle levels have been recharged. I think she's with the kids now. But yeah, she always sniffs my palette. She's gotten paint on her nose and on her paws. And when she sits on my lap and I'm painting, she'll paw at the painting because she's trying to catch the brush. Or she's trying to get my attention so that I pet her, but I'm holding the brush and then she'll, ugh, it's silly. She's gotten a little bit better about it over the, like, years. All right, next we have a clean brush. We're going to grab a bunch of yellow and stick it between the yellow and the ultramarine. If your palette doesn't look like mine, like don't freak out or anything. Yeah, Milo's actually really into watching TV, so she might just be watching TV right now. Like, she actually watches it. Like, she sits on the couch and she's watching with us. All right, so to make green, we need a lot more yellow than we need blue. The ultramarine blue is super strong, so I might just need to take more yellow later, but I'm gonna grab a big chunk of my yellow. Like, you can actually see it's like a physical chunk on my brush. Oh, no, you can't see that. There it is. Looks like a delicious custard or something. This is your first paint class, but you've been painting for a while. Oh, awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining. I'm hoping that, like, by doing it on Twitch, I can introduce more people to it, and, like, you can get a feel for, like, what kind of stuff that, like, you can do with very few supplies or experience. So that's kind of the goal. I took a dot of blue, like, barely any at all, and I added it to the yellow, and you can see how quickly it changes color. It's still a bit heavy on the yellow side, but it's better to be heavier on the yellow side at first than on the blue side, because it's so hard to lighten a dark green. I think that's about good. It's kind of limey, but that's okay. Maybe a dot more. Like, it's so strong though, like one dot really changes the level. Anyway, this is good practice for me too, because I got a job teaching online painting, which I hope turns into like a real painting teaching position, like once the pandemic is over. But this is good practice for me. You just learned yourself. You never took art in school. Well, that's awesome. You'll have a more uninfluenced perspective, which sometimes some people actually, oh, my tea is way over there. Some people really avoid art school because they don't want to be influenced in ways that they don't feel are appropriate to their practice. But I respect anyone who is self-taught, for sure. I can say that the art school I went to didn't teach us much actual technique, so that I've picked up along the way just by doing and making a whole lot of mistakes. All right, so now that you got your green, now that I've talked your ear off, we're gonna put a green circle between the yellow and the magenta, the top ones. We'll say the center will be around here. Set your center, and then you twirl around a little bit. Now, because this green has so much yellow in it, it's kind of transparent. You can tell, you can really see through my brush strokes. They're kind of hollow looking. That's okay. We'll be putting more than one layer on it, so. That's my green circle. It's pretty small. It's still kind of yellowy. I'm not sure if I like it, but we'll live with it for now. Again, these are more like placeholders. We're going to be blending into them in a bit. Definitely saves money too, skipping out on art school. Yeah. There are so many resources online and like so readily available that I would say learning on your own is almost a better way, because you can just look directly into what you want to learn, right? You don't have to do the whole degree or whatever. I have another green circle underneath the big center blue one. The green ones, I have them much smaller. Not entirely sure why I decided that, but whatever. The greens in my references were also a lot more blue, but that's okay. Green is green. If you want to use green straight out of the tube, feel free to. Green I feel like is I normally only use the primary colors, because I find if you introduce a color that could be a secondary color from your primaries from a separate tube, that they don't always match because they're not made of the same colors. Let's see, where's our last green thing going? At the bottom, kind of squished between this magenta one and this yellow one. There we go. I think I shared it on Instagram today, this really funny short that someone made about art school critiques. and I was discussing it with Brad earlier, how accurate it was. And like, art school can be pretty brutal sometimes, and they're really good at following trends, which aren't always conducive to lifting up a person's spirits. Let's just put it that way. So I've been through a lot of art critiques that were really harsh. And like I said, in university, it was like, we didn't learn actual techniques. We didn't go over like, this is how you make a color wheel, and like, this is how you do some skin tones, this is composition, this is lighting. They just kind of expected you to know all of that already, which, fine, I guess for some people, like they might have taken art in high school and learned a lot of those things. But in a painting 100 class, you'd think that they would like at least make sure everyone's on the same page first. Anyway. Learned a lot more on your own, exactly, yeah. Because you can just chase down exactly the stuff that you're looking for, right? If you want to learn acrylics, you just look up acrylic classes, or, you know, even community classes are good. Definitely gives you a thick skin, yeah, for sure. Okay, we are finished with our first step. Let's put up the next reference image. I would say we are going to keep the green on your brush because we'll just do the light colors next. Let me grab the next reference picture while you put some white on your palette right there. All right, cool. Next reference picture. If I was fancy, I'd have a much faster way of doing this, but it's okay. I didn't set too much up in advance today because holidays, I'm so much in holiday mode. So as you can see, the next reference image is up. It's very similar to the last one. What we've done is made a dark background for all the glowing lights and made a gradient of dark to light for the actual glowing things. You don't know any of this stuff, you just paint. That's perfect, because painting is creating images. The only prerequisite you need for painting is, I would say, vision, but even then you can probably create mixed media pieces that are tactile out of paint, so I don't know. Oh, Milo's here, gracing us with her presence of using the litter box. Thanks, cat. All right, so I'm gonna add a little more white to my palette because it's not quite enough. Oh no, I'm out of, oh, I have one Menchie spoon left. I'd say the only prerequisite to being a painter is liking painting. Milo, do you wanna come say hi? Come say hi, BB. I got our white. Wanna come say hi to everybody? I know you do. If she doesn't come and later on people are watching this on the recording, they're just gonna be like, what? Come on. Come on. She knows that I want her to come up now. If I pay too much attention to her, she backs off, which is kind of funny. Hi. Wanna come sit? Come on. Come over here. Milo. All right, you come when you're ready, okay? There she goes. She's running off. You heard her though. She is here. I'm gonna make a little more green because mine, I didn't quite make enough. So I grabbed some yellow, grabbed some blue, mix it up. All right, so now with the white, what we're doing, ooh, that is a dark green. It's okay. See, now that I'm ignoring her, she's coming. Cat logic, right? So this is a much darker green. That's okay. Hopefully you have a similar green. Yes, Milo. Now you want to say hi, eh? I can tell she's ready for me to pick her up, though. I'll just grab her collar and she's cool with it. Hey, baby. Put my brush down. You can say hi to everybody. Hello. We get all the extra views because we have a cat. Yes. Say hi. Everybody's over there. Right there. She's so chill. She's the chillest cat. Hey, baby. Did you watch some TV? Maybe you did, maybe you didn't. I should be painting. Yes, I should. I'm gonna go paint now. Wow. You can sit on my chair, okay? And that's Milo. Milo is a boy's name, usually, but she is not a boy. Clearly. Well, not clearly, she's a cat, you can't tell. When we got her with a litter mate, sort of, and named Otis. Otis, yes. He passed away last year. God rest his little kitty soul. But I named Milo because his name was Otis, so I wanted them to match, like in the movie, the Disney movie, which I haven't seen since forever. She's up on my chair now. You can't really see her, but she's right off screen. You can see her tail. Anyway, that's what she got the name for. Milo emotes. Hey Maria, how are you? Cats do make everything better. Eat dinner. Enjoy. Remember when Meep would be a beached whale in your thumbnail? You'd have more people come watch. It's true. If you have cats, it's like a mascot. I don't have cat cam set up right now because we're using it for the palette, and I feel like that's a little more important for a class. Anyway, so I took a bunch of white and I mixed it with my green while I was cat talking. So as long as it's slightly lighter than your previous color of green. Actually, I'm going for a really, really pale green because what we're gonna do is we're creating the center of the lights, which is gonna be just one shade underneath white. So here's my first one. Now this is when we get into blending, so I'm not gonna make this part too big. It's gonna be about 1/4 to half of the diameter of the beginning, like that, like this. And I'm gonna do it for all three as I go because I don't wanna have to remix the same color over and over again. If I know I'm gonna have similar shades throughout an entire painting, I'd rather do them all at once. That way when you blend them, it's a little better, like it's a little easier on you because you don't have to remix the same colors over and over again. So I have it here, I'm gonna do it again here. Just this bright center. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna go from the bright center and fade out to the edges. So the middle has to be the brightest. It's gonna mix with your previous paint, which is totally normal. It's part of the blending process. Just try to make your very center a bit brighter, like the lightest. And we're gonna do it again down here. If you're working digitally, it might help to use an airbrush for this. It would definitely speed up the process. But if you want a more painterly look, like if you choose a hard-edged brush, then it might help a little bit. Okay, so that's all three. Next, what I'm gonna do is I'm going to grab the green on the edge, and then I want a slightly darker, something in between. If you've already like mussed up all your green there, then you can mix some new green and put it on the side. And we're aiming for something in between the two colors, in between the background green and the light green. So I'm gonna making kind of a miniature version of what I wanna paint right here on my palette. So now I've made like a medium green on the edge, and I'm gonna grab that, and I'm gonna paint between the two, like this. So now what I'm doing is the center dot is still wet. So when I paint it, I'm kind of pulling at it with my brush, and that's creating like a little blending technique there by dabbing at it repeatedly. But I'm not covering it completely with my brush, and I'm not being all the way on the outside of it. I'm kind of overlapping it by half. So like, if this were my brush and this is the dot that I'm blending, I don't blend here and I don't blend here. I have it overlap half-half. So I blend half in and half out of the area, and that really helps it kind of bring the two colors together. And the paint will move around as you work with it. That's totally normal. We're gonna clean up the edges last, so don't worry about it. If it's a bit messy, it's okay. So I'm gonna grab more of that medium green and do the other two circles. This one here, blend that in. So I'm doing the medium green on the bottom, all the way around. I'm not quite going all the way to the edge. Like that. And then the last one. Again, if you need to mix more of a certain color, then feel free. Do this one here. There goes Milo. She was not entertained. I am not exciting enough for the cat, apparently. She's like, "You're not petting me? I'm out of here." What is it? She's so whiny, so demanding. Okay, so that's the 3. Now we're going to kind of smooth out the last area, which should technically be the same green that we used in the very first stage. So I'm going to mix a bit more on the edge here. And this one should be a fairly pure green without too much white in it at all. There we go. And with that, I'm going to go around the edge like this. It's going to end up making the green ball of light bigger. Oopsies, I got a ton of blue in there. It's okay. Well, I'm getting a lot of blue streaks in my green right now. That's okay. Because our background to these lights is going to be kind of like a blue backdrop, so it'll fade nicely. If your green's a bit messy like mine, kind of looks like a monster green. The more you go over the same area, it's like a dry brush technique. Once your paintbrush has been emptied of its color, like, and you're just kind of, basically there isn't very much paint on the brush right now. Like if I were to paint on the side here, there's almost nothing left on it. But that works really well when you're blending colors, because what it does is it mixes them live on the canvas without adding too much extra pigment. It just pushes them around and it mixes them together. So I kind of go around the circle a few times. And now we get this kind of gradient effect. Like so. Alright, and we repeat that on the other 2 circles. So definitely need to add more green. This is the only problem with mixing colors instead of using them right out of the jar, is that you have to mix them over and over again. So now I'm just doing the outer edge. Another technique for blending, you can even just dip your brush in a bit of water, shake it off a bit, and then go around the edges again over the areas that already have some paint. And acrylic is a water-based paint, so it actually encourages it to move around together. It smooths things out a bit. Actually, I might do that here too. Just smooths it out. If you use too much water though, it'll start to pick the paint up off the canvas, especially if it's already a gessoed canvas like mine, like it's got a bit of paint on there already, then it might actually start lifting some of the paint off. You don't want that, so don't use too much water, but a little bit could really help with that blending. Like so. Right, so now we're gonna do the same thing to all of the other colors. So now we have like 3 glowing areas, and we're gonna move on to, let's see, I guess we'll do the yellow one next. Doesn't really matter. Wash up my brush. If you guys have any suggestions or requests for stuff that you want to see me paint, I am so eager, so happy to hear them, because I quickly run out of ideas when I'm painting these. What I might do is I might rebroadcast some of them, like teach them again, because I only had like 1 or 2 people in my previous classes. I can always repeat some of them, especially if it's been a while since I taught it. Like for the popular ones anyway. Alright, so let's grab some more yellow because mine is so dirty. back. What you doing? She's looking for a comfy place to rest herself. She's like, I want to watch, but I don't want to be all the way there. Now I've made a big mess of my yellow on my palette, so I'm going to squish it over to the side. Close it up. Okay, so we're going to repeat the same steps we did before. We're going to grab some white. Try to get the white that isn't all green. And I'm going to put it next to my yellow. So using the blob of white, I'm going to add just a little dot of yellow so that it's mostly white, because that's what we want for the very center. So super pale yellow. And then we go after our first glowing orb, using the very pale yellow in the middle, expanding it out a little bit. Yellow is a very naturally bright or light color, so the white will have to be, well, I think I had it more orange actually. So we might actually just modify that now. I'm thinking. So yeah, let's do that. So I have the white yellow middle. And now I'm gonna, since it's right next to my magenta, I'm gonna grab a dot of my magenta right here, and we're gonna turn it into like an orange instead. So I'm grabbing a little bit of the magenta, setting it to the side, and then I grab a bunch of yellow, mixing them together. Now we have this beautiful orange. Making orange out of magenta instead of red. You can be using red too, but I find using magenta makes the orange a lot more vibrant and like intense. So now I have this orange. Hang on, I'm gonna mix a bit of white with it. So I mixed magenta and yellow and white to make this light peachy orange color. Kind of hard to see, but you can see in the palette cam. It's around like that. Oops, sorry. It almost looks like like a peachy peach. I'm gonna put that on the edge here. Ooh, it really stands out. It's okay. Try to get it to blend in with your super light yellow color as much as possible by going over the area repeatedly with your brush in a similar motion, slowly going towards the center. Like that. And I'm covering up quite a bit of it, but that's okay. I can always go back and make it brighter again later. But the more you go over it while running out of paint on your brush, the more it blends with the color underneath it. There we go. We have this beautiful peachy orange color. Because there isn't really, the reason I chose to change it a bit to orange is that there's no such thing as a dark yellow when it comes to light. And also when we do the background blue, I don't want the outline of this light to turn green too much. So I have my orange color now and I'm gonna blend it. Oh, you know what I didn't do? We were supposed to do the light white in the middle of all the yellows first. Oopsies. I went and disobeyed my own advice. That's okay, we'll do it any way we want. Alright, let's wash our brush and we'll go back to the yellow white. My bad. Well, seeing as I shrunk down my center bright spot on this yellow orangey light so much, we can revive it a bit. So I'll add my whitish yellow here again, make it a bit brighter. And really, you can go back and forth as many times as you need to make the blending work. Blending is annoying. You could probably even make this, if you're not comfortable with blending, especially if you're not used to handling the brush a lot, this painting would probably also look really good with like straight, hard outlines as well, like just circles. So I'm making some more light yellow here, white with yellow. So for example, if I wanted to do this one like that and I just wanted to do a dot, you could probably do this quite easily where you just have a dot in the middle here. Like that. And then, we have children nearby. And then for the next color, you can just do a straight up This is just for the sake of an example though. For the next one, you can actually make it a hard outline. Like that. And it wouldn't be too bad. That way, if you're just really not comfortable with blending it, you could always just have it be circles. And it would still look good. It would still get the same effect. Like that. So yeah, feel free to do either blend them or not. It's up to you what you're comfortable with. You might kind of end up with a hybrid of the two just by virtue of how you're using the paint. So I'm going around with a little light, making it glow a bit. And then making it go out more towards orange on the edges. We'll go with the pure orange last though. I haven't done that on the other ones yet. Okay. I'm giving my brush a little rinse again. And I'll do the light yellow on the other two yellow orby ball things. Grab more white, stick it in the yellow. Alright, so I'm gonna do the center of this one. Same thing again. Looks like a little donut. And last one up here. This one won't get a very big one because it's kind of smushed up in the corner, but it's okay. There we go. I'm gonna add a little bit to the center of this one again, just to lighten it up a bit. So it's 8 o'clock now. I think we'll probably take a break at 8:30 just because I started a little later and I want to be able to get to a good stopping point of when things need to dry before we take a break. Alright, so I'm grabbing my orange, my light orange, so magenta mixed with yellow, magenta or red mixed with yellow and then mixed with a bit of white, to do the outline of all of the lights here. Like that. There we go. Kind of looks like a sun or like in a desert sky or something like super bright. I need to mix more of this magenta color. There we go. Those of you painting, am I going too fast or is everyone okay? Hopefully you're okay. Don't feel obliged to answer if you're like in the zone. It's all good. I'll just keep going. But I do still have my eye on the chat, so if you need anything, want to ask any questions, I'm here. Unless you're watching this as a recording, in which case you can, ask a question on Patreon or something. Drop me a message or an email. There we go. You are most welcome, Kent. Nice to see you here. Everything's good, Amelia? Okay, good. I'm glad. Like I said, we're gonna finish doing the glow on all these guys, and then we'll probably take a break. A potty break, at least for me. From tea. Alright. I'm gonna take my orange and extend it out to the edge of my yellow areas. I didn't quite do it all the way, so let's do that. I'm mixing more orange, and this time I'm not putting any white in it. Just pure orange, yellow and magenta, or red if that's what you're working with. Red works too, to make orange. Yeah, I wanted to stream these to give people a better idea of what the classes are like, because I've been posting for about 6 months now about my classes, but it's really hard to get people into it unless they're looking for something so specific. Like, I want to introduce it to other people in a wider way, like in case you see it and you didn't know that I did this kind of thing, you know? Kind of helps. I hope. I don't know. Whatever. I mean, I'm not Bob Ross or anything, but I do love painting along. So I figured some other people might too. Also, like, my normal streams are at really weird hours, right? Like, for most people, like, I stream when most people are working because that's my work hour. That's my work day. So I'm streaming while my kids are at school, and then a lot of people are at work, so they don't catch it. So this is a nice way to, it'll probably be like, I don't think every Saturday, but as often as I normally teach class, so like once a month at least. I really enjoyed doing the digital one too, actually. That was a lot of fun because it's not as much prep. I can just jump on and cover one Photoshop technique every once in a while. So if you guys have any ideas or questions for really specific things in Photoshop that you want to learn, I'd be happy to go over that. I was thinking of doing a class in how to make like a flyer, or like, just a piece, like an advertisement or something, how to deal with text and put images and piece it together. I think there'd be a need for that, like, especially with people during COVID have been starting their own businesses and needing to advertise things online. Even if it's not advertising selling things online, I feel like it would be really handy to advertise anything, like a cause or even like a bake sale or something. Super handy skill to have to make ads on in digital media. Alright, so now that I've completely made all of my yellow lights orange, it looks a little better. And our centers, if your center has been completely drowned out by your orange, you can always go back, mix a bit of white with some yellow, and kind of revive it there, make it bright in the center. And again, using water when you need to make that blending a little more friendly. Some people like to use, because like water dilutes the fixative in the paint. So acrylic paint is water-based, so it's easy to wash with water. But at the same time, if you use too much of it, the fixative goes away and it no longer adheres to the canvas. So what some people like to do, if their acrylic paints are too thick, they use something called a medium. I have some here. This is a matte medium. Actually, it might be better here. This autofocus is better. This is by Liquitex, but a lot of different brands make it. And this you can use instead of water if you want to thin your paints down and make it flow smoother to blend things more nicely. Instead of using water, then this actually is pure medium. So this is like the carrier for the acrylic pigments. So you have your acrylic paints which carry color, and this is the binder. So this is just pure binder. So you mix this with some of that, and you get the paint will go further, but the color will be a bit less intense because you're basically diluting it. But it's not as bad as using water if you're going to dilute things, because water just weakens the paint overall. Using Photoshop to make layouts and getting things lined up would be very handy, such as Twitch layouts. Ooh. Although Twitch layouts, there are so many great plugins for that. Like I use Stream Elements. I can show you like my normal Paint with Kina thing. If you look, what does it do? Get to see more of my, it puts in all this stuff automatically for you. I didn't have to design any of that in Photoshop, which is kind of nice. But I can totally walk through how to make graphics that would stand out on your Stream Elements, like logos that are transparent background logos, or like your own bit cup, or stuff like that. So I can totally do something like that. But I would totally also recommend Stream Elements because they have everything already done and transitions and stuff, but you can always use Photoshop to add on to them. I'm talking a lot. All right, let's make our magenta lights glow a bit. So again, same deal. We're going to grab some white on the edge of your magenta or red. I'm gonna get a big chunk of it because magenta is pretty strong and it overpowers white very easily. So I'm just gonna grab a dot of it. See how strong it is. Oof, yeah. So we're making a super, super pale pink. like I said, just one shade shy of pure white, because that's going to be the center dot of our lights. We'll add one here. Really high contrast there. And we'll add one here. Like such, and then one down here. They look like little donuts. So delicious. Stream Elements is good, you just need to play with them more. Yeah, totally. Photoshop was fun, even using GIMP. I'm glad that some of the things were transferable to GIMP. That makes me glad, because then it's not like I'm just catering to people using software that you have to pay for. That being said, you can get a free trial of Photoshop. It's especially if you only plan on trying it, but it's just what I've used the longest. So I'm really happy that there are parallels between Photoshop and GIMP so that people can follow along in more than one way. But yeah, we can do graphics. I'd rather make classes on things that people will actually use, you know, not just things that I find interesting. Typically, things people actually use are things I find interesting anyway, so. All right, so I'm mixing the medium color now, half pink, half super, super light pink, and half magenta to be our middle ground here. I'm gonna start blending it out. And I'm really using the full width of my brush now because these are such large, big color shines. I don't know. Big, colorful blobs. I'm gonna use that middle color again on another one. And you probably guessed it, we're gonna do the same thing with the ultramarine, the blue lights as well. Now this color is still quite a ways away from the edge value. They're quite different, so I'm gonna have to do another layer after this one. I can get the bottom one too. Yeah, I've had some requests for like how to make like business cards, which I can totally do. That's so, for me, like I've done so many of them, so it seems like easy stuff, but then I forget that other people haven't been doing it for as long as I have, and I'm like, oh, you know, it's easy. And then I'm like, oh wait, it wasn't easy when I started. So even just learning how to incorporate text and dealing with templates that you download from different sites, because like I always get my business cards done with Vistaprint because they always have these really great deals that come up every once in a while, like around Boxing Day or Black Friday, or just randomly throughout the year they have these different sales. And with sites like that, I just dip my brush in some water to smooth that transition over, by the way. It's drying up a bit. But yeah, they have templates on Vistaprint for things like business cards or brochures or something. And you can just download them and then like kind of drag and place your own stuff in there. But learning how those templates work is actually pretty challenging sometimes. Alright, so now I'm taking magenta with just a dot of white, and that will be like our furthest out color here. Like that. And again, when I blend it on this big circle, I'm kind of going halfway over the white and halfway over the pink, or the darker magenta here. And I keep brushing over it until it helps it blend. Again, it's already kind of dry. If that's the case, you can mix some of the lighter color again and just go over it again in those spots there. And you can go back and forth as many times as you want. Like you can make it look super filled with brush strokes, and as long as the overall effect is that it's going from light to dark, that's all you're looking for, really. So, like so. And every stroke I make is in the direction of the light. So I'm not going this way. I'm not pulling it back and forth. I'm always moving in this circle around the light, and that really helps kind of accentuate the shape of it, and it helps form it without flattening it out too much. It helps it keep helps it look more realistic, even if it's brush strokes. Like that. It's a little messy. That's okay. It's a painting, not a photo. You don't want it to look too much. I mean, like, I don't really go for realism. I like paintings to actually look like paintings, personally. Otherwise, I would have just taken a photo. Here we go. All right, so we're gonna do that on the other two. I have my magenta mixed with just a dot of white. I'm going around the edges like that. Now my painting is probably a lot bigger than yours. I recommended a canvas either 8 by 10 or 11 by 14 for this. But for the sake of sharing the screen, it's much better when I have a larger canvas to show you guys. So it takes me maybe a little longer to cover all the area than for you guys. Oops, I just mixed some yellow in there. It's okay. If you find your gradient transition from one color to the next isn't perfect, you can, again, you always just try to mix the same color over. And if not, like, give it a little break, leave it alone, let it dry, and then come back to it. There's nothing wrong with that. Again, you can dip your brush in water. My water's looking kind of murky right now though, so I don't know. I don't want it to be too... I don't want to use too much of that water because it's kind of gross right now. What time are we at? 8:20? Okay, we have enough time to do the blue glowy glows. Okay, so now wash off your brush and then we're going to do the center glowing of the blue lights next. I might even squeeze in the last step before our break. Oh, I had previously used this to clean up a lot of yellow paint and now it's all over my fingers. Okay, grabbing some white and putting it between, oops, I got some green in there. Putting the white between the white and the ultramarine blue. Again, just a tiny little dot of blue and wow, it really changed the color. So it should be more on the white side. So do a dot here and one up here. Like that. This one actually had a bit too much blue in there, so I'm gonna have to go back and add some white. It's okay. Okay, so I'm gonna use pretty much pure white in the center of this one just because I added so much blue to it before. I'll do that again up here. Okay. Now we'll make our medium color by mixing more blue with it. We'll go on the outsides again.
Hey, you're gonna make a mess.
There we go. Oh, I definitely had a bit of yellow hiding in there, so I have this, like, this teal glow going on. It's okay. Again, the idea is just that it's really bright in the middle, tapering off to darker on the edges. I'm gonna grab some more blue, mix it in there, and then do the edge here. So you'll definitely have a chance to master this this circular blending technique, which you can use in anything like sunshines or lamp posts or I don't know, whatever you have that glows in a painting. Fairy circles, like little glowy lights. I use it all the time. If you're familiar with my work, I definitely, you'll see me use this technique in a lot of different things. Now I went ahead and almost completely covered all of the darkest blue with a medium blue because the background of our lights is going to be ultramarine blue. So we don't have to keep it to be the purest of darks along the edge here. You can actually go right to the edge and paint it with something slightly lighter. Not too light, but you know, like that. All right, we still have another 5 minutes before the break. So I'm gonna go ahead and start filling in between all of these lights. Now, what I want to do this now before the break because I want it to actually dry, or at least get close to dry before we do the next layer. So now it's looking pretty good. We're almost at the end of this of our preview image right here. So next, since we just ended on blue, we're gonna keep your brush the same color, and grab pure ultramarine or blue. If your blue is not very dark, I would suggest mixing some magenta with it or red. We're just gonna have a look-see to see how it looks on the in the background here. So I'm grabbing a whole bunch of it on my brush, and I'm gonna start going in between the different glowing lights. So I'm gonna start around the big blue light that we had by using the darkest version of this blue and encircling like that. Now it's gonna go around all of the lights. But when it comes close to these two, like say here, between the blue and the green, I'm not gonna outline it completely. I'm gonna let them touch a little bit and just go around the green, like that. So you guessed it, we're gonna do that throughout the whole painting. Anywhere that we still have white left over, we're gonna fill in with our darkest blue. And again, if your blue isn't that dark, like if you're dealing with like a sky blue, a cobalt or something, then go ahead and mix a little bit of red with it just to make it more of a dark background, because we really want the lights to stand out. And to do that, the only thing that creates the illusion of lights glowing is when you actually have something really dark in the background. Hey MMA, how are you doing? Thanks for hopping by. It's been a while since I've seen you on stream. I'm recording this class for Patreon to view later if you guys ever want to paint from it later, so that you can have the supplies that you need and kind of have a feel for how long the class will be. But yeah, so I'm putting them on Twitch to stream, to record, and then I'll have them available. My Patreon, like the lowest level, has all of the recordings for the classes. It's $2 a month. Actually, I'll pop the link back in there again. There's also the link below if you just scroll down a bit. Anyway, if you want to check it out, all of the classes I've recorded, I have about half a dozen or so, a little more, of these step-by-step painting tutorials, like actual real-time, not time lapses. Hoping people find them super handy, especially during the pandemic. I know some people have been using it to keep their kids busy. And yeah, I try to have at least one class per month. I've been starting to do, like we did one Photoshop one last week and that was a lot of fun, so I might start making that into a monthly thing as well, like one digital, one traditional. Maybe not have them weeks in a row though. It's a bit nerve-wracking for me sometimes to have them one week after the other. Good time. So I probably could have added another glowing light at this bottom corner here. Maybe I'll make another blue one actually, because I definitely did not make my some of these shapes big enough, so I'm going to add a blue one in the bottom right corner since I already have blue on my brush. This is a bit of a brush one, but I'm going to grab just the white, like that. I'm going to do the center right away. And then blend blend it out. Since this paint is super fresh, I don't even need to grab another color. A bit distracting, but you know, other people live here too. So yeah, I'm just adding another, if your canvas was, if you're following the reference, then you might not have needed to. See, the more I use the brush and push into this orb, the more it blends and the darker it gets because it's mixing with the paint that's already there. So it was easy to do that one quickly. I'll go back to using pure ultramarine to do the edges of the rest of them. But yeah, because I didn't paint this painting at this size the first time, my proportions were a little off. And feel free to, like, you can even use what I'm gonna end up doing later, I may or may not, is to blend around the lights a little more. And by that I mean grabbing colors from the actual lights. Like here, grab green and have it mix in with the background a bit more instead of it being a hard outline. Alright, so we've almost completely covered all of it. I'm totally running out of blue, but that's okay. Doing the edges. Okay. Like so. Almost completely filled it in. Okay, we're just hitting 8:30 now. Now I'm gonna give you an option here because I want to finish kind of closer to 9 o'clock and I don't want this class to stretch out to be too long. I'm gonna give you two options. So like one option would be to leave it at this point here and let it dry, because the step that we're doing next is going to be actually introducing the actual string of lights. But the thing about that is that once you do the string of lights, you can't modify the background anymore because it'll overlap black lines for the wires. So if you would like, what I did here, and I'll show it to you real quick. Oops, sorry. Is I did mix some of the colors. Like for this one here, for example, I mixed the magenta into the, oopsies, it's all reversed, into the background. So I'm gonna do that real quick, but you guys don't have to do that at this point. You could probably just let it dry at this point if you don't want to do a ton more blending, but I'll show you what I mean. So here I still have ultramarine blue in my brush. I'm gonna grab some pure magenta and I'm gonna go around the edges here. Now what this will do, it'll make a dark purple, but I'm doing it around kind of the outside of the light, just to give some context to the light, like to make it blend a bit more with this ultramarine background. Like that. I'm gonna grab a bit more. And because I haven't washed my brush after using the ultramarine, it's gonna be a bit more of a purple. Like that. Like so. Any questions so far? I hope. Don't feel like you can't ask them. I am watching the chat. Okay, so I'm gonna do that again with the other one. I'm gonna keep, while the ultramarine is still fresh in the background, it blends quite easily with the magenta that I'm adding here. Just like that. And it kind of makes the transition from the background, like from the lights to the background, a bit less harsh. But again, blending can be a big pain in the butt sometimes, so. Totally understand the frustration. really like how the brush strokes show. It makes it really dark in the background, but you can always add more of the blue to darken it up. Again, as long as you keep with that circular motion around the light, like when you're at the bottom right of the glow, you do your brush strokes in a curve out from it like this, like kind of cradling it. It helps a lot. All right, so for the other colors, I'm gonna grab, for example, some of the orange. Might need to make some more. Now this is where it could get a bit muddy, and that's why I don't always blend these ones so much. So I have some orange here, and you can see like when I do the edges here, it makes it turn kind of green. So it's not something I recommend for doing with all the colors. So I just wanted to point that out, that you don't have to make all the colors look like they're super mixed in with the blue background. I'm adding just a little bit around the edges, and it's actually kind of green, so I don't want to make it too pronounced. Just a little bit. However, the magenta over here with the blue mixes a lot better. So I'm just adding a very, very light edge coating around the orange. If you're doing this digitally, you're not going to get that weird mix of green. Unless you program, Lisa, like I know that you were using a program that kind of mimics real paint really well, so I don't know if that would end up mixing your colors the way it would mix mine. But this is just to kind of soften the edges between the light and the background. Like that. I'll do it for the green. I'm just grabbing the darkest version of the green and going along the edges here. Another way to do this is you could even just add some water to the color that you're blending, like we discussed before. That could make it look a little blendier. You might just put like a transparent halo around the color instead of actually mixing the colors together. Do it around the blue one real lightly to ease that transition. And right about now we want to give our painting about a 10-minute break. I'm just going to do the orange one I forgot up there. Yeah, just to give it some time to dry, because what we're going to do next is we're going to string along those wires to go throughout the painting. And that will kind of lead us to the to that final step of putting on those little light bulbs. I'm looking at the actual preview, and it looks like it got a bit dark in some spots. Great. So I'm gonna let this dry. I'll put on a timer for 10 minutes. I will mute the microphone for a bit. Actually, I don't have to. If you guys have questions, now's a good time. I'm gonna mute it for now and set the timer, but I will be answering questions in the chat and checking on my family. Again, we are just waiting 10 minutes for this to dry, because the next layer we're going to be doing, we're going to be stringing along some Christmas lights, and we don't want it to be overlapping wet paint too much. Again, it's okay if your paint is a little wet because we're just using pure black, so get your black ready for the next step. I would recommend cleaning out your water at this point, grabbing a drink, do whatever you want, stretch. I'm going to stretch and clean out my water bucket and clean my brushes off. Okay, moving on. I want to finish, we'll probably finish a little bit after 9, but the next two steps are not that bad. Give me 1 sec. I'm just gonna ask if they can move into the other room.
No.
Alright, so we're gonna put black. I had my black set up here. Now my palette is kind of covered up, but I think we can probably squeeze it in next to the ultramarine because it's pretty dark already. So, and we're just gonna be using pure black. We're not gonna be blending the black with anything. And for the next step, we're gonna switch over to a pointed brush instead of the flat. So here's my flat one's up here, but I'm gonna grab a brush with a bit more of a pointed tip. It doesn't have to be super sharp or pointy, just so that it's like a rounded brush here, not a flat brush. It'll just help us with doing the shape, doing straight lines and stuff. Okay, so this is the part where we have to kind of anticipate where the, oh, I gotta switch up the reference image. We're gonna kind of guess where the bulbs of the lights are gonna be and which direction they're gonna face. So if you check out the reference picture here, you can see that I have the I did the black lines first, and then we do the little case or the bottoms of the bulbs after. So load up your pointed brush with some black paint, like that. All right, and I'm gonna start by picking one of the strings. So the first string I have that's a bit easier to follow goes from the green, kind of skims the orange, goes through the blue, and then the green again, and up. So, with your pointed brush, with some black, we're going to start above the green, so here, kind of between the green and the magenta. It's around there, okay? Now, making one continuous line, you're gonna have to go back and grab more paint as you go, because if you have a smaller pointed brush, it's gonna run out of paint fairly quickly. And as soon as it starts to run out of paint, it gets kind of, it does that thing where the canvas texture gets in the way, and you're gonna get like a broken up line instead of a smooth continuous line. So I would even recommend dipping your brush into water real quick, maybe once, and then going back on your palette a bit, rolling it around in there. And keeping it a bit moist will help it kind of glide across the canvas instead of it clumping on large amounts of black paint. So we want it to be smooth, kind of like an ink brush. All right, so we're going to do kind of a wavy line from the green, the top here, and then kind of linking to the orange right there. So it's kind of a straight line, but I'm gonna be okay with having some, undulations in there. I'm going back for a little more paint, and then I'm gonna have this line wave its way. I go over it a few times, and that's fine. It doesn't have to be one continuous perfect thing right away. And when I go up to the blue, I'm kind of going through it on the left side. I'm leaving some of the shine on this side, but I'm going through it too. So not directly through the middle, but kind of closer to the left side. And then I'm gonna wave it on through the green, like this, right? So that's our first string, like that. You can go back and kind of reinforce it, grab some black, dip it in water, smooth out that line. Okay, like that. Next, we're going to simulate the real wires that I was modeling it after, which was the It's like the Christmas lights that have the series in them, so that, you know, when one dies, they don't all die. I think that's why they do it. Anyway, so they have more than one wire. They're kind of braided and they kind of run like little DNA strands all the way through. So what I did for that is I grabbed the same thing. I grabbed some black, dipped it in water a little bit, put it back in the black just to make it a bit more fluid. If your black paint is already really fluid, then you don't have to dip it in water. But in this way, I'm gonna go up and down, kind of around a wave. I'm not painting yet, I'm just showing you guys the motion, kind of waving around the main line. And what that'll do is it'll give an illusion that it's several wires like that. So I'll do it slowly, go up over a bit and then under a bit and then up. It's kind of like a vine snaking its way around the main one. Goes back and forth. You'll probably be able to see it much better once I get to the light blue. So you see I'm leaving a little hole there and I'm going around like that, little half figure eights. I'm still keeping them really close to the main wire though. I don't want them to be like way out there because they are supposed to still be part of the same. Yeah. So here, I don't know if you can see it, but I ran out of paint a little bit here and it's a fuzzier line. Actually, I don't think you can see it, but I just go back with my black and a little bit of water and I'm cleaning it up a bit. And that's just because the black paint I'm using is actually really thick. So to make these smooth, continuous, flowy lines, you have to add a bit of water. All right, so now we're gonna do the little bottoms of the light fixture. So for the green one, I just do a little rectangle. I just kind of push down and it makes a shape like a thumbprint almost. Like if you were to see it on its own, for an example, if you were to see the shape I'm making on its own, here, pretend here's the wire. I'm just doing like, I'm grabbing one that's around there and I'm just pushing it in and letting go. It's just making like a little blob or a rectangle. I might clean up the corners to make it look more like a rectangle, but that's the essential shape we're going for. Because later on when we add the bulb, it'll be like a teardrop shape coming from that little rectangle, and that will be our bulb. Okay? So to make these little light fixtures, grab some more black paint and then push it around, like you can kind of picture the bulb will be around here, okay? So that'll be our fixture there. We're gonna do the same thing for all the lights that it touches. So we're gonna do it again here. I'm gonna push down and then lift up. There's still some water in there, so it's getting a bit messy, but don't put too much water on your brush because then it'll start dripping. We don't want black dripping all over our lights. I think I did drip a little bit here, but it's okay. There we go. So that's where our orange bulb will be set. And we just repeat that for the other lights in the different spots. So we need that for the blue one, so we're gonna put one here, a little rectangle, clean up the edges a bit, like that. It's kind of like a rounded rectangle. We don't want it too sharp. Nothing in this picture is very sharp. It's all very soft and fluid. And here we'll do one for our little green light here, like that. So that's basically all of the lights on this string. So now we're going to move on to making another string. Still with black. Same thing again, where grabbing some paint. And the next string we're doing is just a really quick little one. And that will be, I'm trying to look here. Oh, actually I did it a bit differently than the reference. That's okay. Let me just make sure. All right, so we're gonna deviate a bit from the reference because I made it different. I'm gonna start in the middle on the left side. I'm gonna go around the bottom of this magenta light. I'm gonna cross over the black line there. And in my reference, I have it coming out down here and going up. So we're gonna use that line. So go down here, have it cross over the orange a little bit. The more it intersects but not completely covers it, the more of an illusion of depth we're gonna get. So that goes down there. Then we're gonna bring it back up. Kind of just skimming the edge. So we have it going here, here, and then it skims the edge of this magenta one because the bulb will be over here. And then it's gonna join up the green and the orange. So we're going all over the place. We got the green one here. Like that. Again, not going right through the middle because we want room for the bulbs. We'll go around this one and then almost through the center of this one. You can really tell where the bulbs are going to be. And then we're going to swing around the outside, right side of the magenta one. Again, you can tell whenever my brush is running out of paint because it gets fuzzier. Like that. Go over those again. And I have it going under the green. It's really winding its way around. Under the green and through the orange one up here. And then up through the blue. So that was kind of a long one there. So recapping. Starts on the left of the canvas, down around here. It links up almost all of the rest of the bulbs. Here on the magenta one on the right side, and then up through, it's going to capture the orange one at the top left, and then the blue on its way out. Alright, so now I'm going to do the secondary wire for that and just kind of weave it around. And if it's curving to the top here, you want to weave your other side towards the bottom and just work in the opposite direction. Weave them in and out. Just like that. All the way. If you want to use like a really thin brush for this, might be easier, but then you have to load up your brush more often, right? Because the smaller the brush, the less paint it can hold, and the more frequently you have to run back and get more. So it depends on what look you want to. If you wait for your painting to dry completely, you might even be able to use like a black Sharpie or a black paint marker. Could also work. Like so. There. Now we'll add the little fixtures for the lights. So we have one for the magenta one right here. So we just do our little push, make a little rectangle there, rounded rectangle, pointing kind of towards the bulb. And then we have another magenta one down here. And then our green, of course. Kind of already has one. We're just gonna block it off to be a light fixture there. I'm sure there's a more technical term for the light fixture or something. And then one for the orange one here. And then again here. And the orange one at the top corner on the left. And the little blue way up here. There we go. Okay, so now the only bulb left without lights are the ones on the side. So the blue one I added last minute and the orange one at the top right corner. So we're gonna give those a little string. I think they all have a match. Yeah, they do. All right, so for that one, I'm just gonna do one closer to the left side so we can actually see it. And then twirl it down, just straight down until it goes across on the left side of this bottom. If you didn't do a light on the bottom right corner like I did, don't worry about it. You can just have the wire trail off and it's no big deal. It'll still look nice. And I'm gonna do little opposite wires again. You should get the idea by now. Big wire, little wire, fixtures. So at this point, like, this is why I wanted to do the background first, because once we do all these wires, you can't very easily change the gradients and the bulbs, like the gradients in the background. It's harder to add new colors because you'd be covering the black essentially. So we'll do our little fixture over here and one for the bottom one here. It's kind of messy. It's okay. Great. Now wash off your brush. We don't want any more black. We did all the things. Next, we're going to outline, this will be the last step. Actually, I'll bring up the, we finished that reference photo. Yeah, the next is going to be the last step. We should be finished in about 10-15 minutes if you're watching the clock. So there's our last reference image. Okay, so the last step, basically we're just making the actual light bulbs. So if you want to practice the shape on the side somewhere, if you have a piece of extra something, I'm gonna get you to practice it a couple times if you need to. If you don't need to, then just go for it. But this is going to be a very repetitive shape, so it doesn't hurt to practice it. So I'm going to need more magenta for sure. But yeah. So basically, if you have a dot here, that's the tip of your, that will be the tip of the light bulb, and then the fixture, say if it's down here, you're going to practice identifying, this will be the lightest glow right here. That's going to be the purest white. So what you're going to practice doing is making kind of a curve around that pure light, joining the fixture from one side and then from the other side. So imagine that's the wire. Okay, so that would be the pure glow in the middle, and this would be the fixture, and that's the point that you're going to have to eyeball. Okay, it's definitely going to be something that you do the first time and you might mess it up. That's okay, just paint over it. Okay, so since I already have magenta on my brush, actually I need to grab more. Okay. Get my trusty Menchie spoons. Don't need too much because this is our last layer. So grabbing just the pure color, because this is going to be the darkest. Remember when we did the first circle, we had the darkest version of this color. So now what we're doing is we're outlining the bulb using the darkest color. So we'll start with this one here. So let's do that imaginary dot on the other side of the bright light, okay? It'll be right around there. And we want to get as much of this white glow inside of our bulb as possible. That's the goal. All right, so we start on the fixture and we encircle it, and then we close it at the dot, okay? I'm gonna kind of fill it in near the bottom. I'm gonna do the same thing on the other side. I start on the other side of the fixture, I wrap up that little glow, and I close it up. And that's pretty much it. Because we've already done all of the glow work, it already looks like a bulb, right? Super simple. Now in my sample piece I did, oh, hi Milo. I did blend them a little bit. So if you have a little bit of extra energy in you, feel free to then grab a lighter color to maybe ease that transition from the bulb to the glow. Totally not necessary though. It's one of those things where from far away it almost doesn't even make a difference. So that's totally up to you. Because my painting is so huge, it really shows wherever I didn't blend it in. It's like a backwards teardrop, exactly. The strands look so cool. Oh, thank you so much. I'm glad you like it. This is actually one of my favorite paintings that I've taught in a while. Alright, so we're gonna grab, we'll do another backwards teardrop over here. So this one will be interesting because half of it's already covered by the bottom of the canvas, right? So the tip is gonna be right on the edge of my canvas. So I'm only really gonna have to do one side. I'll do the bottom a little bit and then encircle it like that. Like that, so that's our bottom one. Doesn't show as much, but that's okay. The ones that are cut off are just as important as all the other ones. We just need to make sure that they all continue off the canvas to give that illusion that we're really zooming into like a pile of glowing lights. All right, and the last one here, do a dot, identify the edge, and then do your little teardrop shape. Like that. I close off the bottom a little bit, kind of like round it out, like that. Maybe make it a bit pointier. You can even change the shape of your bulbs too. It doesn't have to be like that teardrop shape. I know some of them tend to be, I've seen different shaped bulbs where they're like maybe more square and then they come to a point too if you're not good with that curvy shape. And okay, next I'm gonna grab some, I'm gonna use the leftover magenta on my brush and mix it with some yellow because my my orange is all gone. So I'm gonna make some darker orange. So it's gonna definitely have more magenta in it than the previous, but it's still orange. Okay, so we're mixing an orange. I'm gonna do this one first. So do the dot. This one is kind of far away. That's okay. So the dot will be closer to I don't want to make the bulb too huge, but I'm gonna do the outline here. There we go. Doesn't have to be super neat and tidy. It's all glowing. Looks like a little fire. Okay, do that one. And we do the same thing up here. And again, the point is probably gone here, so I'd say it's around right on the edge. Having stuff right on the edge of the canvas is not my favorite. It kind of makes for a poor composition, but I didn't plan that out very well, so it's okay. We'll come to the end. There we go. Okay, so now we're gonna grab the last one. Oh, no, we have two more. Okay, so the dot here, and then the teardrop. So by now, you should be used to it, getting those shapes in. The only thing you have to remember is which way it's pointing, right? So depending on where the fixture is, you point it away from that over the glow. So for here, it's pointing this way. Very, very simple shape. There we go. If you're painting this now, I would love to see how it turns out. And if you decide to paint it later, I would still love to see it. I love sharing the stuff that you guys make because it ends up looking the same but different, you know, like with a different twist. It's really cool to see. And I just have the green to do, green and blue. I'll mix some green. Now the palette I'm using is a Stay Wet palette. Basically, I know some of you who watch me paint know that I use this, but it's for those of you who aren't familiar with it, it's a box palette. It's a container. You can't paint, you just like to watch. Oh, it's all good, man. Have fun, enjoy the show. This is a Stay Wet palette. I highly recommend it. I get them at Wally's, but they're online too. It's just called Stay Wet, S-T-A Wet. I'm not sponsored by them or anything. It's just like, I love these things. I have a big one and a small one. It's basically a tray, a shallow tray, and it comes with a sponge that's shaped for the tray, and you soak the sponge and then you put a piece of the special palette paper on top. And what that does, if you can see underneath, this is the sponge is wet and then the paper is moist also. What that does is that this enables all of my paints to stay perfectly moist while I work, so I can walk away from my palette for a good half hour, and if I put the lid on, it'll stay good, it'll stay moist for days, sometimes weeks, sometimes months, and then it gets moldy and you have to toss everything. Give everything a good bleach, but just saying, if you're working with acrylics really often and you're finding it frustrating that you're having to remix the same colors over and over again, the Stay Wet palette is super handy. All right, so I'm mixing some green and we're gonna do the bulbs here. So a dot and then closing it off. I think I might have liked using more of a teal green for these lights. They look a bit limey. That's okay. Next time I paint it, because I normally paint my class paintings more than once, but you get the idea now. Take your darkest color, and for this case the green, but with a little more blue to make it darker. If you're using pure green from a jar, that's fine too, I don't care. Whatever looks good. But you can get the idea now that even if you chose different colors, but you don't want a moldy palette, it's really gross, it smells bad too. Anyway, you can get the idea now. With this composition, you can actually go back again and do it with any color that you want. Like, yes, happy little accident. You can go back and paint this with any color. Like, they don't have to be these specific colors of lights. It helped in explaining the positioning of things to use different colors in a certain position. But otherwise, really, you can make all of these one color or only use one or two. It's up to you, really. Ding! Pizza's ready. Late night snack / dinner. It's a late night snack pizza.
Yeah.
Or late dinner. It's all good. Is there any for me?
Like some.
Maybe.
How are your students?
Students are great. We've got 10 people watching.
Wow.
That's more than I've ever had, like, ever. In the past month.
Is it the interactive kind?
I think it's also the timing.
Can I see like what they're doing?
No, they're on Twitch. They're just on the chat.
Ah, okay.
So it's a little less interactive than the Google Meets, but we get more people watching, which means more people know about it now. So I think I'll still do the private classes too, like maybe for different formatting where people want the feedback.
Like maybe for the advanced ones, so it's more like kind of like hands-on. Stop here. Let's look
Yeah,
at your work,
exactly.
That kind of thing where it has checkpoints.
Checkpoints. I think so. I think that might work. But this is really great for like once in a while I can do it on Twitch and people know that I'm doing it and are more familiar with the fact that I have a Twitch channel that teaches painting. So.
Kina Ross.
Kina, I can even like, I was gonna say if I tease my hair, do Bob Ross for Halloween. I know everyone has done that, but I wouldn't need a wig. That's the difference. Alright, for the last one, you'll grab your ultramarine blue, which I'm quickly running out of, and do the same thing. We're going to put a dot on the other side of the glow, and then connect the lines. Like so. The blue is really nice because it's so dark. It really pushes that contrast. It's so nice. Kina Ross, that's amazing. Well, like, my hair is really, really thick and, like, really curly. I had to use, like, I use like a wax to calm it down, to braid it, because otherwise it's just like a wild, untamed mess. It's probably a bit too long to actually get a legit afro out of, you know, but hi Milo. But it might, if my hair were a little shorter, I could totally pull off a Bob Ross look. I'm kind of waiting until the pandemic stuff completely clears out before going to a salon, because I don't feel like going to a hair salon is like totally necessary right now. Yes, Milo. Wanna come say hi again? Yeah. We're pretty much done. We are done. I just finished the last blue bulb. Wanna say hi? You like my painting? Let's get all the views now because we have a finished painting and a cat on screen. Yes. Let's see how long it takes to go from 10 to 11. What do you have to say for yourself?
Big idea.
Nothing? Or a fake palette. You could use a real one. Or fake it. A fake palette. Sorry, I don't think I got the context of that. Milo says painters, rather, that your paintings are great, so. Mwah. Okay, fine. Bye. Alright, so that's pretty much it. So we have, if you ever wanted to really, like, clean it up, there's one other thing you can do to get a little bit of a final touch here, to add some real sparkle. Sparkle. Ah, pizza!
Don't be a hipster.
Okay, I'll wait. It looks good. Now this is now a pizza cam. Don't be a hipster. Don't eat the pizza before it's cool.
It comes from the joke. It's like, why did the hipster burn their mouth? And it's because they ate pizza before it was cool.
Yeah. I hope you guys heard that. Alright, so if for the final touch, what I'd like to do is you get pure white. That's right, I don't need a fake palette to be Bob Ross. I'll just use, what I would like to get is one of those wooden ones with the right shape, you know? I don't have one of those curvy ones like he does. The wooden ones. Anyway, get pure white, and if the centers are dry, you can do a little white. Actually, this one doesn't make too much sense because it's up here. You can do white dots in the very center. If your bulb was properly centered, which mine are not all properly centered, but doing the little white spectral highlights will really help make it look like a glowing light. You can do one in the center and maybe one on the edge, and that helps it look super shiny. Because you guys know I'm all about making things glow and shiny. Yeah. So add one of those in each of your little lights. It'll really help make it look super shiny. That's pretty much the last step. Don't forget to sign your work, especially if you're giving this away as a gift or something. I didn't remind you to keep painting the edges as you went along, but if you make it part of your practice to paint the edges, then you don't really have to frame the painting. It's all ready to go. It already looks nice hung up on the wall. Do little white shinies on all the things. Doop, doop, doop. I'm actually going to be touching up my painting a bit because it's going to be a gift for a family member who really wanted it. But I definitely rushed this for the sake of teaching, and it's really big, so I'm going to have to, I think I'll go over it again. Alright, pizza should be ready. Alright, and there you have it. So here are our Christmas lights, our glowy, glowy lights. I hope you guys enjoyed watching. I'm going to stop the recording now, but I'll keep the stream on because I would like to raid one of our fellow streamers. So stick around for that. Otherwise, if you're finished painting, thank you so much for joining me. And I'll let you guys know what we paint next time.